I do not care about Valentine's Day. The only thing I'd be like jazzed about is if someone gave me a heart-shaped pizza.
Welcome to the Coven Slumber Party with Ray of Blackheart Arts and Sarah of Calling Corners, where we break down and geek out over the witchy, magical, mystical media of the 80s, 90s, and more, and try and fill the video store-shaped holes in our hearts. We have recorded our introduction twice, and that is because...
I have a new business name. Blackheart Arts.
Blackheart Arts. I love that.
Oh, good.
That's the new incarnation of what 5x5 has been. So that's what you can expect to see her social medias under. She's going to start going through those changes, correct?
Changes, yeah. Yes.
Excellent.
And this is also motivation to actually do it, because it's still scary.
Yeah, it is scary, but I think it'll be good.
It's a lot. It's like new branding and new name and new everything, but it's also new products too. One of the things is I'm going to be doing like ritual candles and a lot of things to help with setting intentions and stuff, because I have a really hard time with that. Super ADHD. I can't meditate. I've tried. I can't, it's not a thing that comes easy. So it's just like, it just ends up being another thing that I yell at myself about. But if I have something to do, like, or an object or something physical in front of me that I can put my intentions and my focus on,
yeah,
way better. So I'm going to be doing some stuff like that for people like me. And it's going to kind of go from there. There's going to be more natural soaps with like just essential oils and like locally foraged things, but also I'm still going to do my horror stuff with glow in the dark vegan powders, and like, nice. It's still going to be natural and like cool and safe, but I'm going to have a foot in both worlds.
I'm excited for that. So when we say Blackheart Arts, going forward, you'll know that that's still Ray, and that's still her stuff.
Yeah, it's still the same person with the terrible mic.
How was your holiday?
We have not talked since then, have we?
No.
Holy shit. Yeah, fine, I guess. Pretty standard sort of holiday festivity stuff.
Cool.
A little weird, not everyone could get together because there's so many of us. We couldn't all be together and stuff, so that was a little weird, but yeah, it was good. How about you?
My holiday was December 11th. It was like a Saturday, and that's when Joe Bob's Christmas special came out on Shudder.
Oh, okay.
It was so magical. I have never felt more festive than I did that day watching that.
Aww.
The movie was so good. It was called Dial Code Santa. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I missed it. I watched the Creepshow special, Christmas special, but I didn't watch the Joe Bob one.
Yeah, I watched Creepshow one too. I wasn't super stoked on it or anything, but
it brought up a question that I'm going to ask you, because I feel like I know the answer for your answer. But I asked Justin, I was like, are you a Creepshow or Tales from the Crypt person?
I'm a Tales from the Crypt person, which is because it's like what I watched in the 90s, and I love it, and it's so good. I do love Creepshow, but the Creepshow I love is like the movie.
Yeah. And I agree with you there, because Justin said Creepshow, and I was like, no. Wrong answer.
It kind of, yeah, I agree. Yeah. It kind of is the wrong answer.
The movies are great and stuff, but it's just, I don't know, there's like the seasons, like Tales from the Crypt, like mini movie sort of things. They're so beautifully done. Like, actually kind of like in the same vibe as like Love Witch, where the colors are just like turned up like full blast.
Yes.
Where it's just like, yeah, red light is coming in this window for no reason, and then also blue light is drenching these people for no reason.
Yeah.
The first episode I remember in the series has Demi Moore in it, and she goes to this fortune teller that tells her the quote truth unquote, but she doesn't give the full story. So she and
she marries that guy, and like,
yeah, because it's like he's gonna come into money and then die, and then twist, she was the one that inherited the money, and then she left him and he murdered her. And
Yes.
then he got money and died.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a serious one too that like I always forget about, where this guy has like a drinking problem. He's not happy with his job. He's married to this beautiful woman. They're having a hard time making a baby, and their rich friend from college scoops him up for like a trip and all this stuff, and the husband's paranoid that this guy's like moving in on his wife and all this stuff, and he like slowly goes crazy.
Yes, yeah. I know the one you're talking about. And then they have the party for him at the end after he murders
and it's like he drags her in with her negligee being like, here you go, baby, and it's like, you're gonna be a daddy.
Yes.
Like, it's so dark, but it's so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay, cool. Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah. Tales from the Crypt is better. The Christmas thing, though, the Joe Bob thing was, like, the greatest thing ever. And I started crying. Oh, my God. It was so sad because he's reading this letter a fan wrote him. And it's just, like, about how, like, the fan watched movies because he had no friends and his parents didn't like him over the years. And, like, his aunt watched Joe Bob with him.
Yeah.
You could see Joe Bob getting mad at Darcy the mail girl because she put that letter on, because he doesn't want to cry on camera. He just keeps stopping. And it was so cool because they were live tweeting and stuff, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm crying. This is so many feels. And Darcy the mail girl retweeted my tweet, and then she started following me, and I was like, this is the best Christmas ever.
Are you serious?
I was so excited. Yeah.
That is a very groovy Christmas gift.
It's the only one that I cared about.
Thanks, Mom and Dad, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
I know.
Yeah, no wonder you had such a magical moment that day. Like,
it was the most magical Christmas I've had since I was a kid.
Yeah, everything, it was all for you.
I know we brought up, I was talking about Candle Cove. Did you end up watching the rest of the series for that?
No, I didn't. Did you?
Yeah. I was gonna ask you because season 4, like, I thought they were okay. I was like, oh, this is compelling, I'm gonna watch them all. And then season 4, like, was incredible.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you're gonna watch them, watch season 4.
Is it like True Detective thing where like every season is different, or?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay.
And it's kind of like that American Horror Story thing where, like, they bring back actors, but they're in different roles.
Oh, groovy. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go. Oh, also, I was going to mention, did you ever hear or watch Lovecraft Country?
I've never watched it, but I've heard of it. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty intense ride. The episodes are packed full of stuff. Of course, Lovecraft all throughout it, but it's also based in reality as well. Like, there's an episode happens during the Tulsa riots, so
right.
It's like very heavy real stuff mixed into super heavy surreal Lovecraft stuff, and it's really well done too.
I'll check that out then too. Whether you love it or hate it, Valentine's Day is upon us in all of its red and pink, chocolatey, flowery glory. Not to worry if it's not your thing, I'm a cynic in this department myself, opting to love February 14th with a strictly vintage, decoupage, arts and crafts kind of love. But we wouldn't miss an opportunity to revisit some mostly nostalgic crushes and of course discuss a witchy film awash with love and romance in all its magical, technicolor deliciousness. Whatever your stance or status on love, whether you're a hopeless romantic or an unchained melody Scrooge like me, or somewhere in between, we hope you'll join us in trading our usual slumber party pizza for cinnamon hearts and our Dr. Pepper for some love potion number 9, and take the plunge into exploring the witchy and nostalgic side of arguably the biggest of feels. Welcome to episode 8, our Valentine special double feature, and thank you for tuning in to our first slumber party of 2021. In our last episode, I was like, we drop episodes monthly, and then immediately I'm like, let's skip January.
Psych.
One of the most unexpectedly spiritual books I read last year was from fashion publicist Kelly Catrone. It's called If You Have to Cry, Go Outside and Other Things Your Mother Never Told You. I loved it. But as somewhat of an epilogue, she answered some questions left on her Facebook circa 2009.
Okay.
When the book came out, or around when the book came out. And one of them was like pretty juicy and delicious, and I immediately thought of us recording this episode when I read it, which was, if you could cast a love spell on anyone, who would it be? So, I'm going to ask you that question. But don't worry, if you can't think of it right off, you can answer at the end. But I'm throwing that out there, and I'm...
No, like, as soon as you said it, I was like, Tom Hanks!
Oh, shit, really? Yeah, Tom Hanks, right.
Tom Hanks is the most precious human on the planet. He gave his blood to help figure out the serum for anti-COVID. It's vaccine. That's what it's called. Vaccine. He writes books. He collects typewriters. His Instagram, he just takes pictures of lonely gloves on the street. He tries to get into tiny cars. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks.
I love it.
Tom
I
Hanks.
should have known. I should have known.
It might be Richard Dreyfuss, but it also might
Richard Dreyfuss.
Tom Hanks.
Okay.
Wait till you get my list, girl. What about you?
Harry Houdini.
What?
I know.
Fine.
I know. Well, okay, I kind of love Harry Houdini. Like, I buy all the books that are about him, and I read them, and I listen to any podcasts that are about him, and all the things like this, right? I love Harry Houdini. He's just so cool. Like, he's a magician, first of all. I mean, he was a magician.
I was like, right? Yeah.
And
he got punched in the stomach.
He got
and
punched
died.
in the stomach and died on Halloween. but that's only because of all of the adventure and escape artistry that he did during his lifetime. The dude was so buff and very attractive. Look up pictures on Google. I'm not kidding.
I'm going to. Here we go.
And also,
Okay.
I think that like he had a tumultuous relationship with like the spiritualists of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that if I cast a love spell on him, he'd be super impressed.
Oh my gosh. He does. He's got a look, girl.
Right? He's kind of a babe.
And he's serious. I mean, a lot of these photos, he's trying to like make you be like, I'm a magician. Ooh. Oh my gosh, yeah. There's a picture of him all chained up and he's in like an old-timey swimsuit and he is buff. He's got those muscles on top of the knees.
Right?
That make no sense at all. Like, where did those even come from?
Yeah, so I picked Harry Houdini.
Okay, that's amazing. Obviously, yeah, like alive, right? Not the dead
like
version
time
of
travel's involved in mine as well.
Okay, cool. Well, if time travel is a thing, I want to go back to like 1987 Tom Hanks.
Part 1 of tonight's podcast will be deep diving into 2016's delightfully vicious feminist horror film, The Love Witch, which I want to add too that you have a 4-ounce soap inspired by this movie, which is in such adorable Technicolor, much like the film. We'll link to that in the show notes, but what was your inspiration, like, just aside from the movie? Like, did you... Because there's some sparkly parts in the soap, too, which are pretty cute.
Yeah, okay, so like the base of it is a mix of like rainbow and black, just kind of swirled together. Because that was one scene that really stuck out when she first is kind of like working her magic on Walter. Was that his name? Wayne. She lines the inside of her garments with rainbow fabric. I was like, that is so precious. Like, I actually kind of want to do that.
Right.
And it was like, the rainbow is for you. I was like, I'm going to just mix that all together with some black in the soap. But then you had to put the sparkly gold glitter on there to get all of the rainbow effect and awesomeness on it. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, and the scent is Love Spell.
Part 2, which we'll timestamp below if you're listening via YouTube. Ray and I will be revisiting those pop culture players and characters that gave us cartoon hard eyes over the years. And we'll be disclosing and exploring our top crushes and the pieces of media that made us fall for them.
I have a lot more than you.
I know. I'm so happy that you do. Because I'm going to ask you when we get that far, kind of what your process was, like we did with the Halloween episode.
I think I just had too much love to give and too big of a heart as a kid. And I was just like, everybody's amazing.
That's so sweet. So let's dive into The Love Witch.
The IMDb actually kind of was okay. The breakdown, it's just a modern day witch uses spells and magic to get men to fall in love with her with deadly consequences. Yeah, okay. That is the vibe of the movie. So I'll go with that IMDb. For the most part, it's really well received. Like Rotten Tomatoes, I think it has like a 95 or 96% or something.
Nice.
The audience percentage is less, I think.
Right.
Because it's very much one of those movies that if you dig it, you dig it. Mm-hmm. If you kind of get what visually is happening, it's like it's your speed, or you're like, no, thank you, never, no. So it's a pretty big divider, I think.
No, I would agree with that.
But again, everything I read, I'm like, I don't know anything anymore. I just feel like I just recently had the rug ripped out from under me.
Really?
Because I started reading interviews with Anna about what her intentions were and everything, and it's like totally opposite to what I thought she was doing. So now I'm like, I don't know.
I kind of agree. Like, I found, like, when I was looking at stuff, too, that she said, and then stuff even other people wrote an article. Like, there'd be one article where a guy's talking, and he's like, it was very clear that the actors were purposefully doing this type of acting that was, of the time. And then she'll be like, that's just how they act. It's not about being, like, 1960s.
I know, but is that true, or are you...
I think this is very much the Joss Whedon issue, where it's like, you've made something that's bigger than you, and you can't control it anymore, but you're still trying to control it.
Oh, yeah, fair point.
Because
she also alluded, because it came out in 2016, so there was a period where it was getting reviewed, and then the whole Trump sort of thing started taking over, and it started to get viewed very differently.
Yes.
And so I think it got more traction and got more of a voice and stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think she was like, oh no.
Right.
It's getting taken and pulled in many directions, so I gotta be maybe like super assertive about everything. I don't know.
I know what you mean. It is weird because that's actually one of the things on my notes too, is like I don't know if you found this, but like when I go to research this movie, so often it would come up with articles that were very specifically also about, well, the Love Witch, Lana Del Rey, and Trump resistance.
It must have just been like that specific time.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I still think it's a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as she's like, it needs to be taken seriously, it's not fun at all, like it's a serious movie, it's also a fun, campy movie.
100% it is.
It's not like you can be like, oh, Citizen Kane is like a comedy. You just don't understand. It's like, no.
Yeah.
You can't completely reshape the clay once it's hardened and is a thing. And also a thing that kind of bums me out sometimes about art in general, not just like movies, but art in general, is that people kind of forget that the audience finishes the piece for you.
Yes.
No matter what your intentions are and your meaning and what you think the piece is saying, everyone experiences things differently because they have a different life than you. Once it's put in front of other people's eyes and it's consumed, you have no control over it, and that's the end.
No, I agree with you. Let's go back because the cinematographer was M. David Mullen, who was the DP for Jennifer's Body. And The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I think is something that you're into.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And then that's really cool, too, that this movie was shot on 35mm film, because no one uses film anymore, so it was nice.
You can tell, too, it has, like, a really nice warm... It's, like, comforting to me to watch movies like this.
I hear you. It's like you're watching it, but, like, you have that vision of you watching it on, like, a really old, clunky TV as opposed to, like, a computer screen or something.
Yeah. I remember even in university, I took the old TV from my childhood with me, and it was, like, wood paneled with the turny dials, 2 turny dials. It just made watching stuff better. I know that probably infuriates people because, like, I collect VHS, and they're like, like, Blu-ray exists. I'm good with my scratchy, weird... tapes.
Tapes are awesome. I regret getting rid of... Well, I don't regret it for the space because, like, I don't have, like, really my own space, so it would be not practical for me to do it, but, like, I definitely miss my VHS collection and wish that I had it still. So this movie stars Samantha Robinson as Elaine, the Love Witch, and she's relatively new. I didn't recognize, like, any of her work prior to the Love Witch.
Yeah, same. But, like, perfectly cast.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Like, she was made for this role.
Literally so beautiful.
Oh, it's annoying.
You're just
But thankfully they throw in a couple of things that, again, I thought were really nice nods and winks to, like, earlier style and genre films that she was taking from, whereas Elaine wakes up from sleeping and her makeup is smudged and gross and weird, and she's like, oh, what? And, like, she has to fix her hair extensions and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you never see that in those old movies, I thought it was cute. But...
Yeah, she takes her hair to the bathroom and, like, throws it.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, it's great.
I liked that, too. I thought that was kind of fun. Guyan Keys, I think I'm saying his name right, Guyan Keys, who plays Griff.
who again was made for, like, he looks like a cartoon from like those romance comics from the 60s come to life. Everything is just chiseled. His nose and jaw, everything is just angled. Yeah.
He was perfectly cast. Laura Waddell as Trish, who I feel like is my favorite. I kind of love her.
Same. I thought she was so great.
She was so great.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest and say right now, I don't like Elaine.
Oh, neither
She's
do I.
Not a good character.
No, she's a horrible person.
Yes.
Yeah. And they kind of let on, like, they kind of give you little snippets of her past and why that might be so, but it doesn't change the fact that you're just like, Trish is a wonderful human and you're just destroying her life.
Yeah. And you don't even care.
And
like,
you don't even care.
All.
Yeah. You're just like, la la. Because that scene after Trisha's husband kills himself because he's in love with Elaine and they go to the tea room together and Elaine just does not give a that he's either dead or that Trisha's upset. She's just like,
no. Like, like Trish is like, okay, like, straight up it probably happened like a day ago. And she's like wearing black, being like, oh yeah, well, he probably had an affair and then killed himself, but let's talk about you, sort of thing. And Elaine's like in her own little world, so happy, and gets Trish to try on her fake engagement ring or whatever. And like Trish has that moment where it's like, remember the first time we were here? I showed you my engagement ring and you were single, and now it's the opposite. And then Elaine just is like, I gotta go. Bye.
That scene, more than any of the killings even, that scene made me be like, oh yeah, she's a sociopath.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, just bye.
It was just so hard. Like, that scene was the toughest. I was just like, you're awful.
Yeah, and Trish was actually like, it was well acted. The character Trish was like kind of holding back tears, and it was like pretty real, you know? And then it was just, nope, bye. I gotta go.
You know that thing where I said, like, I always, like, say, who's your boyfriend or girlfriend from this? I'm picking Trish from this movie.
Okay. No, to be honest, you know, I might go for Griff's partner. He was pretty cool.
Oh, he was awesome. And he was so rational. He was like, what are you doing, you dumb idiot?
Yeah. He was like, she's super dangerous. Like, she probably murdered her husband. I thought he was pretty rad.
Yeah,
he was. I'd date him or either the pearl clutching girl that figured out Wayne was kidnapped. She seemed nice.
The only other person that I made a note of as somebody who was starring in this movie was Jennifer Ingram as Barbara.
What one's Barbara?
Barbara's the high priestess. Anna Biller, in many ways, is like a one-woman show in this film, particularly with costume and set design. I also read, and you probably read it too, that Biller worked on these costumes and set design for 7 years leading up to the shooting of the film.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
That's commitment.
It is commitment. What we learned in film school and all that is like, there's a diagram of 3 circles, and it was like, you have to have 2 of these things, these two elements from these 3 elements to make a successful film. And it was like time, money, and talent. So you could take one away as long as you had the other 2. So she didn't have a lot of money, but she had a lot of time and talent.
Yeah.
It worked out well. It was just a very good example of that in action.
I just thought of something though, because I read that also, but I didn't think about it till now. So it's like a lot can happen and shift and change with things in 7 years. So maybe your intention was something, the intention behind the movie at the beginning of the journey was something, and then after 7 years it shifts and changes and stuff. So that's maybe why some of the things that I'm seeing in the movie and some of the things that I'm reading her say like don't correlate sometimes, because maybe just there's been evolutions in the person and it hasn't been reflected in the content.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, I didn't think about that either, but yeah, because she would, all of those articles would have been coming out after its release. 7 or 8 years after. You could be a different person at that point. Your views have changed so much.
Totally.
But one of the things I did think about when I was reading about how long it took her to create this movie was it truly epitomized, in my eyes, the iceberg theory. You know, like you see that like sort of pithy drawing online where it's like all of the detailed and intensive, invisible, often painful pieces happen under the water, and people kind of see this happy, concise, streamlined, polished finished product.
Yeah.
I thought that was this film and the work on this film like is a perfect example of that iceberg theory. Yeah, like it's a good example of like sometimes the thing you are doing is so far from your ultimate goal that they seem unrelated. Like, I mean, you think about she hooked the rug in the scene where Elaine is lying on the floor.
I was going to ask about that because I felt like she did when she was doing her first spell and she was like, love me, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. No, that's the one. She did. But can you imagine being the director and the writer and being like, I'm hooking the rug that's going to eventually 7 years from now be in a scene that I need?
Yeah. And only for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Probably in the whole movie.
Right? It's a lot. And but that's the energy. I think that's the energy that you need whenever you're doing anything important, like having a business. You have to be able to, like, you have to hone in on a very small detail and just, that's the risk. Like, you just have to invest in that and hope that the outcome of your honing in and your attention to detail pans out in the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading a book called The Creative Tarot by Jessa Crispin, and she describes the aces like in a tarot deck of having that energy, like just the energy of having to surrender to that small task that might not seem like it has any sort of relevance, but will at the end, ultimately, hopefully, if you stick with it.
Right.
It made me think of that a lot because I was just super impressed with that, because I think that's kind of a... You know, when people want a secret about how to get started in business, or like secrets about how you do what you do, and it's like, it's not a secret, it's do the shit under the iceberg.
Yeah, it's a lot of work that no one will ever notice. You always think that like, oh no, people will see it, and like it's like, no, a good percentage of people will not care and will not see it, but there's going to be people that it does. Mm-hmm. And that's the important part. There's going to be people that get it, appreciate it, or like, it's because that's happened to me before with like even little packaging of stuff. Just little things. It just like brings me such joy and I can't explain it.
I have a quote here from Anna Biller from Filmmaker Magazine. She says, "The Renaissance costumes took me literally a year to make. I also had to make the patterns that weren't from any period that I could find." So, I mean, can you imagine they're sitting there cutting out paper patterns and stuff, just being like, this is eventually going to evolve into...
And, okay, my question there is, do you already have the cast picked?
That's a good thought. Yeah, that did kind of cross my mind.
Do you just like say you can't gain or lose any weight for 4 years? I'm making a velvet jester costume specifically for you. But I have to say, actually, to go back to actors that were shining beacons in this movie, the jester wins the movie for me. There's something about him that reminds me of young Robin Williams. There's something in his eyes where I'm just like, you're magic.
I agree. I was drawn to him too. I love clowns. I love the whole concept of clowns. I love the whole theatrics of them. I love juggling. Like, I love all that stuff. So anytime that happens in a show, I'm totally there for it. So I loved him too. I'm
like the total opposite. I do not get clowns. Like, at all. I'm not scared by them. Like, people are like terrified. It's like, they make me uncomfortable, I guess, sometimes. But it's more just because I know it's a human in there. Yeah. You can just, if you watch a clown that's not on stage or performing and they're just doing normal human stuff, but they're in clown makeup and stuff.
Like buying bread or something?
No.
Like, what?
No, just like, have you ever like been to shows or somewhere where they're about to go on, or they just went on or something, and they get off and they're like just having a bottle of water.
Right.
You know, they're just being humans.
Yeah.
It's weird. So it's like, I'm not afraid of them, but it's not a thing I'm not like, yeah, ultimate entertainment. But I appreciate that. I like that I appreciate it.
I think too, this makes me want you to watch season 4 of Channel Zero, the Candle Cove
thing?
Yeah. Because there's a clown in that, and I like him.
Is it like a creepy clown or just a clown?
It's a creepy clown, but like,
okay,
it's a good, really. I can't explain it too much without ruining it for you, but I think you'll like it.
The modern contemporary aspects that were mixed in, kind of like nods that I thought were really just little winks that I thought she was putting in there that I really appreciated. The modern...
I know, when he's like, the DNA came back from the lab, and I'm like, you don't know what DNA is, it's 1960s. And then I'm like, oh.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he also accuses her of having this Stepford wife thing. That movie came out in like earlier mid-70s or something, I think.
Right.
Even at the beginning, it's so seamlessly perfect when Elaine's driving and looking in the rearview mirror. It's like very Hitchcockian, like,
yes,
framework and everything. And then she gets into the town and there's no punches pulled. It's shots of the town and it's a completely modern town.
Yeah.
They're not trying to hide anything.
No.
And then she goes through this town and then pulls up next to the most beautiful home ever. I thought that was in something else. Like, I thought that gothic apartment that she was in, I thought it reminded me of the house from Charmed, I think. But I was like, this is in other stuff, I swear to God. It wasn't, I don't think. But anyway, she gets to that crazy perfect apartment building, and then Trish shows up in her peach jumpsuit, but in a BMW, like a modern BMW.
Going back to that apartment, so Trish tells Elaine that Barbara had her use the Thoth Tarot deck for the apartment colors.
Yeah.
So I really dug that, and I made a note of that in my notes. So the Thoth Tarot is Aleister Crowley's deck that he created with Lady Frida Harris. It was commercially published in 1969. And I think that was really cool that they added that element because, first of all, the Thoth Tarot is a more obscure choice than like the Rider-Waite-Smith, which is the quote industry standard, I'll say. So I thought that was a really awesome decision to apply to the film. I have a Thoth Tarot, so when I read that, I was like going through my deck being like, oh, this wall, and you know.
Okay, so do you have that at the shop? Because now that I know that, I want that deck.
I do have that at the shop, and I get it in. I try and keep it in all the time because I try and make sure I have Thoth, Mersai, and Rider-Waite-Smith there all the time. Okay. If it's not there, we just sold out, and it'll come in again in the next round. But
that's exciting.
Yeah, because they have some really. No, it's a beautiful, beautiful deck. Like the blues and the yellows and the purples and the oranges are pretty spot on to what you see in the movie, I would say. I found it really inspiring because, well, I have that deck. I don't tend to use it a lot because I've always kind of used and studied the Rider-Waite-Smith instead. I also find with the Thoth deck, there's it tends to be one where there's more gatekeeping with people.
Okay.
But I don't really subscribe to gatekeepers and their thoughts, so I'm kind of into sinking my teeth into that Thoth deck a little more this year, especially there's a podcast called Fortune's Wheelhouse where they reference a lot and talk about it a lot and stuff, and that really inspired me too. So this movie gave me the push I needed to kind of pull out that deck and be like, okay, this is the year, you know?
Cool, okay. But yeah, that apartment is beautiful.
So cool.
I'd live there in a heartbeat.
Same.
It was like, here you go. Yeah. That weird little apothecary area.
Did you like that science outfit she had on randomly in the apothecary?
I was gonna say, one of my favorite parts in the entire movie is when she's going through the spell book, but she has those giant past elbow yellow rubber gloves on, but she's trying to go through this beautiful spell book without ripping pages or anything. It was really great.
It was really great. Did you ever watch The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra? I probably asked you that.
Oh, I feel like maybe a long time ago.
It's like
I have it over there.
Yeah, it's like a spoof of like the 1950s. There's this great scene where the husband is just in a room in his house and the wife comes in and he's just literally sitting in a room with beakers in front of him and he's just looking at them, and she opens the door and he like turns angrily to her and he's like, "What do you want? I'm doing science." It's amazing. And it reminded me of that.
I'm doing science. I really did like a lot of that setup though, with her like making her soaps. I don't know, I really vibed with that because I was like, in my head I'm like, oh, that's what I do.
I thought that too. I was like, oh, this is what Ray does. It was cute.
This is me. I wanted to know how you felt about like the magic uses in the movie, for sure.
I loved it. It was so real. Like, all of it was so... And because here's the thing. You got to think, like, Anna spent a year designing the Renaissance costumes for this. So, so she did a shit ton of research in terms of, like, the Wiccan perspective. So everything is legit. I don't think I can do my usual point out what I interpret as real witchcraft thing here, because the whole movie is extraordinarily pagan. Wicca, in particular, is saturated in the story just as much as the vivid Technicolor is. And with how mindful and methodical Anna Biller was with the costume and design for her movie, it only makes sense that she would apply the same to the Wicca and witchcraft. It would take a whole hour just to go through everything, which it totally would, because like the attention to detail is like insanity in this movie. This is a movie where paganism is an essential part and laid out in a way that pagans can take seriously, or at least feel like they're representative. That their craft is represented in some real way. And the thing too about it is they can identify whether they're solitary or within a coven, because there's a lot of coven specific stuff in this, which I'll get to. But there's also solitary stuff. Like we see a lot of Elaine just doing shit, like laying on the carpet doing her spells.
Right. Yeah. Grinding up some herbs and
right.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe Anna's a witch. Like maybe she's a practicing Wiccan at least, because
to have that knowledge and stuff. Yeah.
So I found some quotes from her. there's a Spiral Nature article. Spiral Nature is like a really good online magazine for paganism. I refer to it a lot. It has some great stuff. Anyway, she said in an article there, I tried to do the kind of research that someone would do if they were going to be initiated as a witch. I read everything that I could get my hands on, and so I'd really know. At one point, I thought of actually becoming an initiate. So she actually did consider that and clearly did a lot of research. Then there was a Wild Hunt article. Wild Hunt is another great pagan resource online. That article, I'll quote, Anna received her first tarot deck, the Marseille Tarot, as a child. She owns a copy of the rare edition of Crowley's Magic Without Tears, which was originally given to her by her father as a gift. Biller said that while she doesn't identify as a witch, she does practice magic and the tarot at home and believes in spiritual entities. So she does have magical leanings. So Anna pulled inspiration from predominantly Gardnerian and Alexandrian forms of Wicca. Alexandrian Wicca was established in the 1960s by Alex and Maxine Sanders, and Gardnerian Wicca was established by Gerald Gardner in the 50s? The 50s, yeah. And they were both out of the UK. And both of those types of Wicca have a god and goddess represented, and have a priest and a high priestess represented, where other forms of Wicca don't. Like a lot of forms of Wicca just have the goddess aspect. For example, like Dianic Wicca, which was created by a woman named Z Budapest, and I think that was like, it was in the US, but it was later, like the 70s. And so you can tell that Alexandrian and Gardnerian are in the film, though, because of course we see the rituals where there's god and goddess.
I know you have more, but how do you create a form of Wicca?
It's interesting.
How does one do that?
There's a really good book called Drawing Down the Moon, which kind of is I can't remember what the writer's name is now, but she basically like documented like the evolution of these things, and it kind of, you see like these pathways. So a lot of it, for example, like might even be Alex Sanders, who the Alexandrian Wicca creator. They kind of pull other elements into their craft and then change the name. So like there'll be like other forms of like somebody in a coven that's Gardnerian that started with like Gerald Gardner might be like, oh, well, I'm going to go and become a high priestess in a Gardnerian coven elsewhere, but I'm going to incorporate this other thing, and then they'll call it something else. So I think it's just kind of like it's natural evolution.
Right. It's not like I'm starting from scratch and doing my own thing. It's like a building off of
It's more of a building off. I'm sure some people are starting from scratch and doing their own thing, and that's fine too, you know what I mean? But it's interesting to see that evolution. But I remember when I did read that book, there was a lot of fascinating things about how that sort of happens.
Because it's like, I remember when I took my Reiki courses and stuff, there's different Reiki studied all over the world. It just is said, is just like, oh, and then they did this, and then there's also this and this. It's like, how did this woman from Las Vegas just learn Reiki and then be like, I'm going to make it a little different though?
Yeah.
Do you know, like, what cojones do you have to be like, oh, this ancient energy magic, I'm gonna like...
It would be better with Zumba.
Yeah, I'm gonna just like add my spice into it. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm just, I always am so confused, but also impressed when people do things like that.
I agree with you. I think with Wicca, it's really fascinating, and I really love learning about that stuff because I forget it instantly. Like there's so much I've forgotten about this sort of stuff. But to me, like I like that sort of stuff because it's creative. Like I love eclectic lifestyles. Do you know what I mean? Like I have an eclectic lifestyle, so like I don't know. It just feels important, or it feels like you're contributing to something that's so much greater than you.
That's nice.
But you're right.
Oh, I like how you said that, though.
Oh, thank you. I like how you said it. It's just like, you need huge balls to do.
Like legitimately, it's like, but I don't know. I've been like with getting the new business name and everything. Like I've been sitting down with my sister-in-law. She's like someone who works with branding.
Sure.
So I sat down and she asked, you know, like a lot of people have the why behind their business.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
You were kind of a mystery. You're like, oh, by the way, I'm opening a new age boutique. It's
Yeah.
like I already have the place. It's open tomorrow. 5x5 was something that was never just mine, and things just happened. And then I never really, it's been like 6 years and I never really had a why. That's why talking to you like on the first podcast, I had nothing. I was like, oh, like making things.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I never had like a why I was doing the things that I was doing and everything like that. So I sat down with her and I had like a really good conversation. It was emotionally exhausting and work to like actually figure out why I want to do the things I want to do. But it was really great because one of the things was talking about like kind of what you touched on, where it's like to make things to help people feel like they're part of a community and feel like they're part of something bigger. There's support out there in the world for you in different ways than you might expect. Having a touchstone, I guess. So knowing that you use this, other people use it, and like there's space for you in the world.
And it's interesting that you say that whole thing about your why, because like this year I actually, when I was doing my staff meeting, I was talking about this book called Yogalosophy, and it's by I got it because it's Mandy Ingber, which I got after our podcast. Yeah. So I picked up that book because I was really excited because of course, if this makes it in the podcast, Mandy Ingber is what's her name in Teen Witch?
It's like Penny or Peggy or Paula or something.
Polly or something, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I picked up her Yogalosophy because I was really intrigued with the stuff she was saying. And there was this really great part in it where it was like talking about how setting your intention, like we hear that all the time, and they're like, setting your intention is about what it is for her is about pulling a single focus into your yoga practice, or like using it as a lens to see your practice. When I interpreted that for myself, I don't really do yoga. So for me, it was about interpreting it in terms of like the shop. And I was like, I really got to figure out what my lens is again. Like wash off those lenses and put them on with something new. So like
for sure,
setting those new intentions, which I feel like is the why that you just brought up. And when I was saying that to the girls in the meeting, I was like, this year I really want to get clear on like, you know, what that's evolved into. Going back to your point, I feel like when you talk about this stuff like the niche or getting to your niche or chiseling out that, the importance of that, I think for you and me both, is really just about removing like this invisibility cloak that we all have stuck to us. You know what I mean? It's really like trying to find ways to make yourself be seen and like letting other people be seen. And sometimes you have to get really specific for people to be able to like remove that invisibility cloak and like allow themselves to be seen.
Totally. Yes. Because like another thing that was brought up, because my sister-in-law, like she has forms and questions and everything, and she was like, she's very intuitive and she's a beautiful empath. She like called me out. She was like, you're dancing around stuff and just giving me generic answers. Stop. She got me to break down stuff a lot more. I realized I'm 35 and like self-confidence and confidence in any way, shape, or form was something that I don't even think I fully understood was a thing you could have until I was in my mid-20s, when I realized I didn't have it. A lot of my view for the cojones of being able to like make your own Wicca practice, that's such a foreign concept to me, because it's just in the last 10 years of my life I've acknowledged that self-worth and confidence is a thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hear stuff and I'm like, how can you do that? Like, who are you? Are you just like magic? Oh, you probably just had confidence and were balanced, and this isn't an insane task for you. It's just feels normal.
Oh, you probably knew you were valid and could take up space. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a quote again by Anna in the Spiral Nature article, and I'm going to read that because it explains the Alexandrian Gardnerian thing pretty well. You'll notice that there are two rituals in the film. One of them was a Gardnerian ritual, and the other was an Alexandrian one. Because of my own experience with covens, I've noticed that sometimes you'll get a high priest and a high priestess who will come from different traditions. That was my thinking for Elaine's coven, that the priest was Alexandrian and the priestess was Gardnerian, and they do different rituals. somebody references this, I think, in one of the articles I'll link below, but if you Google pictures of Alex and Maxine Sanders, like doing rituals, it legit looks just like this movie, like the same types of things, even like the same like clothing aesthetic and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. My experience is solitary, so I'm more like Elaine lying on the floor on the carpet. Or doing science in my science coat.
Yeah, with your science gloves. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was really cool was the Ren Fair scene, that Renaissance Festival. They have that play of the Holly King and the Oak King reenactment, which I thought was so cool because I never think about that tradition at summer solstice. I only ever think about the Holly King and the Oak King at Yule. Basically, like, the pagan story of that is, you know, the Holly King and the Oak King fight twice a year, once at summer solstice and once at winter solstice. And at summer solstice, the Holly King kills the Oak King, and so the Holly King gets to rule, and so of course he rules us into the dark part of the year. And then at winter solstice, the Oak King kills the Holly King and rules the light part of the year. And so it's kind of like this thing, but I only ever think of it at Yule, so it was really fun to see kind of like the counter side of that played out. And the other note I made, which I think that I want to get your opinion on, because it's kind of like paganism, but also movies. I find it so interesting considering Samhain, or like kind of the one that the Sabbath that happens more at Halloween, we'll say, for people who might not celebrate Samhain particularly. Samhain's a very death-connected past ancestor based holiday. It's like acknowledging, it's very centered on what I would say is death, right? To kind of put it bluntly. To me, has so much potential and a lot of untapped potential for adapting into like a horror movie storytelling structure, just based on that. But I've found that the majority of the horror movies I've seen that are pagan based lean toward the more sunny, celebratory, fertility based Sabbats like Beltane in May and Litha or Summer Solstice in June. Those are the ones that like seem to spawn the most fear for people. I was thinking about it in like Midsummer, Ari Aster's movie from 2019. Of course, that would be straight up Midsummer.
Yeah.
The Wicker Man, 1973, or if we're counting the Nicolas Cage one.
Other one.
The other one.
Yeah.
Or even the Shirley Jackson short story from the 40s, The Lottery, which has a lot of sort of recital and ritual aspects to it, but is also a horror story in my opinion. And they specified the date in the first sentence as taking place June 27th. So for some reason, the more ominous vibes seem to come from like this very sunny, I don't know. Do you notice that too? Or like,
yeah, maybe it's just the old bait and switch thing that you can get from that makes your dark darker if there's light at the beginning, you know?
Yeah, probably that. It's interesting. I just find it, and the reason I brought it up was because I felt like the Renaissance Festival had that energy, that sort of ominous energy that
I'm just thinking like Midsummer now is like a really good example of that. I think there's not a lot of darkness.
Yeah.
Everything is bright pastel-y, sort of like soft tones, but it's terrifying.
Yeah.
There's like a surreal element that happens, I think, sometimes. Your brain's like, no, you're safe. It's nice.
It's sunny. Everyone's smiling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
There should definitely be some Samhain stuff. Like,
it's just weird to me. Like, if there was going to be one, I feel like it would make traditionally, it would seem like that would be the way it would go, but that's not what I'm seeing on film.
Maybe you need to spend 7 years crafting your own film. That's some murder crazy time.
Oh, man. I'll see if that Jester's available.
It really is a fun film. It's really well made. It's got some really good points. You know, it's definitely fun to see this type of film like through the woman's perspective and the woman's eyes and about the woman's wants and feelings and desires. It's definitely refreshing, you know, and it's not one of those, oh, she's Dr. Frankenstein's daughter. You know, it's like she's her own independent, separate person making choices and going on a path completely her own. And it is kind of rad. I liked it.
I thought it was rad too. I enjoy any horror tale where we're rooting for the quote monster. I did find it interesting though, because the first time I watched this movie, like, I don't think I really got enough out of it. When I thought about it, I was like, well, why are these guys dying? Like, what is... So when I got out of it this time I was like, oh, so Elaine is trying to find love and casting love spells on these guys, and they're not able to handle the emotion and they die either by their own hand or literally their heart stops, like Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I have trouble with the end. Like, I think it's really cool and interesting, but I'm like, why would he just lie on the bed? He didn't take her potion. He wasn't hypnotized. Did he just like trust a murderer that he knew was a murderer? I don't know.
She did talk about fate, though, that he was in the cards to come to her. He was her fate sort of thing. And it goes back to the painting that she did earlier where she cut his heart out. Again, it's just, is the plot really that great, or is like visually the symbolism what you're going with because it looks good?
I loved all the symbolism. Yeah, the end, I was just like, I think that it was the perfect ending, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't 100% get it, but I'll take it.
Same, and it's like watching it again, for sure. It's like, oh, for sure, she killed her husband.
Right.
Like, she poisoned him. She didn't kill him. Because, like, I really liked it, actually. There's a scene where she's getting undressed. She takes her hair, like, her wig off, and is, like, just kind of spending time with herself. And you can hear her husband being like, you have to try a little harder. Like, you don't even comb your hair. And it's like, I found an old hot dog under the bed. All of this weird stuff, where you're just like, oh, Elaine, you are a pile.
Yeah.
He's like, can you try a little harder? Like, he seems reasonable, but
Right.
like in her head, she's like, he's withholding his love from me.
Right.
So she's just like, I'm going to remove you and find someone that truly loves me.
That's one thing I also really loved about this movie. I love a movie with an unreliable narrator. Like, I love trying to like guess what's really going on and then what the story we're given. I love doing stuff like that. It's just like an extra fun layer.
Yeah, a little puzzle you get to do. It's a good film. It's definitely worth a watch. If you start to watch it and you're like, yuck, what is this trash? Watch some giallo movies or like some early Hammer horror and that sort of stuff.
Hammer horror, that's a good call.
And then you can like kind of get an idea, so it maybe might not be as jarring. Yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me for sure.
Same. So we're officially on to part 2. If you didn't catch the beginning, this is a list of both Ray and my crushes of media past and present, I guess, in some potentially. Let's dig into some of these folks and characters that gave us the old hard eyes. How did you approach your list?
I was going back like younger in my childhood, back when like TV was, back when I would watch TGIF with my family and, like movie rentals were regular and stuff. So it's basically from, I don't know, like 6 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that stick out. So I know there's other ones that I had crushes on and stuff. And like, there were definitely ones in high school.
Yeah.
But I had to stop because I have like 15. You took like a week to bump your 7 to 9. So I was like, you have to calm down.
Oh my gosh. No, I love it. I was so excited when you told me that. I was like already excited about who your choices were going to be. I kind of did the same thing. I did kind of a chronological thing starting from about age 5.
Okay, good.
Mine goes to 35 though. So mine...
Oh, dang. I should. Oh, well, whatever. Most of these are still true today.
Yes. Let's start.
My first one is my actual first crush. I was like probably 5 or 6 when I was like, why do I enjoy this man's face so much? And it was Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins.
Really?
He had such a soft, tender face. He was funny. He was sweet. He was a one-man band.
He was the chimney sweep, right?
Yeah. And even now, like, everyone that's ever been asked who's ever had, like, the worst British or English accent in a movie.
Yeah.
They say Dick Van Dyke. But I like... something inside of me is like, no, he did a great job. Like, you don't even know. It's like,
you don't know him.
I still love him. And like every once in a while, I just watch the intro to the Dick Van Dyke Show to watch him fall over ottomans. And I'm just like, oh, you're just such a peach.
So I enlisted the help of my mom for some of this because when I was only coming up with a few that were really profound. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, Mom, did I have a crush on anyone? Do you remember, like, in movies? And she immediately thought of this person. So I included them, not necessarily because I recall it so well, but just because it was such an immediate response for her. I was like, oh, that's legit.
It was a thing.
It was a thing. So that's Atreyu from Neverending Story from 1984. And I watched it when I was 5. Played by Noah Hathaway.
Totally forgot about that. Yeah. I'm adding other people now to my list. Sorry. I want to say it, though, because I just remembered and I was like, you do forget.
You forget.
But like Jonathan Brandis?
Yes.
I loved him so much.
Yeah.
Because he was in the Neverending Story Part 2
He
and
was.
Ladybugs.
Yeah.
And he was like in that weird sea quest show with dolphins. But he died really young. I remember he died really young.
Yeah.
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 Jonathan Brandis. Should I go through order of age or just randomly?
So mine are in order of age, but feel free to do however you want.
I'll try to do an order of age then. John Goodman from Roseanne.
I knew this. I knew that you had a crush on him before.
Because he plays Dan Connor on Roseanne. And that show was on from 88 to, unfortunately, 2018. Whatever. I'm going to pretend like that didn't happen. I remember being mad at Roseanne because she was mean to him sometimes. And I was like, he is the sweetest man. You leave him alone. He's just so funny and nice and charming, and I loved him so much. Even still, when they did the reboot, and then Roseanne said a comment that was like really no bueno. Show was like, oh, we're gonna cancel it. My first reaction was like, oh, is John Goodman okay? Like, is John Goodman okay? Like,
that's hilarious.
I really hope so.
So why don't you do another one since you have more?
Oh, I have tons. This one might also be on your list, though. Omri Katz from Erie, Indiana.
So I didn't put him on the list because I thought you might have him on your list. And also I was like, I talked about him. I don't really, like, I was like, I don't want to overdo the Omri if you had him on this.
But I just have to acknowledge I was probably 6 or 7. Erie, Indiana did not last as long as it should have. But I watched it regularly when it was on. And I thought he was just like the coolest. First of all, because he had the mushroom cut and like he could like skid out on his bike and stuff. But like he did stuff that I was like, I totally would hang out with him and I would collect evidence.
Yeah.
This guy's like the coolest.
So my next one in kind of like chronological order, and this is my first one that I remember hard. Rufio, Hook, 1991.
That's good.
Played by Dante Bosco. He was my very first definitive crush. I remember falling so hard for Rufio. It's insane.
Really?
Well, and I think also this kickstarted my whole attraction to like skateboarders and like punk rockers, just based on that whole look. And like he comes in, like, imagine, so I was 6 when I saw this movie. You're sitting there, he literally comes down on like a skateboard / windsurf / train track, jumps off of it, swings in the tree on a rope, and jumps in front of Robin Williams and draws his sword, which I'm pretty sure is Peter Pan's sword that he claimed as his own, which is so punk rock.
Yeah.
And his first line in the whole movie is all grown-ups are pirates. I was just like, I love you.
Oh my God. That's so cute. What you said where you're like, you felt it really hard, like real big loves.
Right.
I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say it. I went and watched Super Mario Brothers in theater, and like I fell in love so hard with John Leguizamo, who played Luigi. I remember going home and being in the top of my bunk bed and being like, oh, my heart hurts because he'll never like me the same way I like him. He's a big like Hollywood star. And it's like, girl, you're 6.
Next is Randy Meeks from Scream, 1996.
Aww.
Played by Jamie Kennedy.
Of course.
And I was 11 or 12 when I fell for Randy. So we both talked about the importance of Scream in our Halloween episode.
Very important.
So I won't dive too much into that.
Everyone, I'm assuming, just knows the importance of Scream and how precious Randy is.
It's a sacred text, and he's amazing. But he's like nerdy and funny, and he knew all the horror movie rules. And he worked at a video store, which is like...
And he was cute.
And he was so cute, yeah. And then interestingly, after Scream, I watched Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio. And Jamie Kennedy's in that, again, with pink hair and a Hawaiian shirt, which also is an aesthetic that I continuously am attracted to.
Oh my gosh. I haven't watched that in so long. I totally forgot. That is such a great movie.
Right? Tears were shed in my house in Scream 2 when Randy died.
I'm so sorry for your young heart.
But the interesting thing is, like, it's so funny now. A lot of these people have social medias now that you can engage with them. And so it's so weird, like, going from what you said, like, this pain in your heart with John Leguizamo just being like, I'll never know him and he'll never love me.
Yeah.
It's like, he probably has, like, a podcast, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah, because he's John Leguizamo, for sure. He's keeping busy. The next one is not animated, but it's also not a human, is Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, shit.
hard feelings again in my heart, being like, we'll never be together, we'll never hold hands. Because, like, keep in mind, I'm like 7 or 8.
You are blowing my mind right now with this. Okay, so I don't have on my list, but I 100%, I am with you.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I loved the Ninja Turtles as well. I was a Michelangelo girl myself.
Oh.
The party dude. But
I was into the moody brooding.
Well, that's just it. Like, now that I'm older, in reflection, I would have picked Raph too, because, like, you understand his plight. You're like, oh, he wants to be the leader. Leo is just like a basic leader.
Yeah.
And no one gives him a chance. And it's really sad. And so you can see where he's coming from. Yeah, there's a lot of depth to Raphael.
David Krumholtz from the Santa Claus, he plays Bernard the elf. He was, like, seriously big time for me. Big time.
I'm gonna look him up.
So I was probably like 9 when I saw this. And this is when I first started, like, it started to be more than just like, oh, my heart hurts. I was like,
things changed a bit.
Dreadlocks, velvet beret.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the movie, but he's familiar. Is this the guy that's in, like, Freaks and Geeks?
Yes, he's the older brother.
Right. Okay, yeah.
I had, like, whoa feelings about him. I was like, he's just so perfect.
Oh, that's so cute.
But also the internet, there's a lot of people around the world that are like, why did I have such feels for Bernard the elf? And it's like, I don't know. And if you go on his social media feed now, like at Christmas time, he was dressed up as Bernard the elf a lot, just being like, I don't know what's wrong with you guys, but this is what's happening. And I was like,
that's hilarious.
I'm not alone.
Oh my God, that's so good. I love it.
Yeah. I had a lot of feelings.
You know what? I gotta say, doing this was really hard because it brings you back to certain times in your life and you, like, start to go through all these, like, emotions, and then you're just like, who even am I?
Yeah.
We learn so much about ourselves during these podcasts, I guess. It's just so, like, it's like
I'm into it. I'm here for it. It's like therapy, but, like, free.
100%. Oz on Buffy the TV show starting in 1997. I was age 12.
Oh my God.
Played by Seth Green.
I'm going to be honest. One of the list is Xander from Buffy, but I made a special note that it's literally only like 4 episodes from the first season. I forgot about Oz. I really loved Oz.
I loved Oz too. What did you love about him?
Again, it's like the Raphael thing where it's like, I have a thing for unattainable, quiet, reserved, moody, brooding, like you'll never win my heart sort of guys. I kind of got that vibe a little bit from Oz because he's like, I only like Willow. You know, like he just was like, he would shut down anybody else. Same with Raph. He's just like, I have my walls built up. I loved Oz because, like, he was funny, he was smart, he was calm, he was cool. He just seemed to be the whole package of radical.
He was in a band, and that was, like, super cool. He wore the coolest things. He was so funny, like you said.
Oh, and nail polish, too.
That was a
thing.
Yes. So attractive. Oh, and then he's got that werewolf thing going on, which of course I love.
Oh, for
werewolves.
sure, yeah.
To your point about him only loving Willow, I found how he loved Willow so attractive.
Right?
I mean, yes, I'm totally ignoring the whole Veruca stuff. I don't really care for romance, but it was so touchingly romantic, like how he was with Willow. Like, he has this line, do you remember? And I think I said it to you before, but it's like when Buffy's like trying to be the prom queen or something, and she's fighting with Cordelia, and they're going over tactics. Buffy's going over tactics.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I know the line. But yeah.
And her friends all end up going and helping Cordelia for some, her friends were always awful to her, but that's a side note. And then Willow goes, and then she's like, Oz, please stay. And he's like, where Willow goes, so goes my nation.
What a boy. I'll get this out of the way real quick. Devon Sawa from Now and Then. Plays Scott Wormer. Only from Now and Then. I know you're supposed heartthrob in Casper for all these girls. Don't care. Now and Then.
Now and Then.
Helped make me make terrible decisions in my life as an adult, because when you're young, if a boy treats you like absolute shit garbage, it means he likes you. So, learned a bad lesson, but still love Devon Sawa in Now and Then.
Fair enough.
Okay, you go.
Age 12 to 14. Clea Duvall. We know her from Buffy, The Faculty, and But I'm a Cheerleader.
That should have been on my list.
If you show me a person that says they've never had a crush on Clea Duvall, I can show you a liar.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She's just a goddess.
She's a goddess. So the first time I think I saw her was in the episode of Buffy, which was called Out of Sight, Out of Mind.
Yeah.
In 1997, she was a character who was so ignored that she turned invisible, which is so f***ing relatable. I can't even, like...
I know, but, like, also, that's the first time you see her and you're, like, you saw her as, a human and you were like, I love her. And she disappears for 80% of the episode. So you just see her for, 2 minutes and you're like, hello, my love.
Yeah. And then she's,
Same.
yeah. So that's a little bit of irony.
But I'm a cheerleader for sure.
Yeah.
I fell in love with her. There's that slow motion shot where she's taking water from the tap and, drinking it out of her hand.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid nice.
A lot of people fell in love that day, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm a cheerleader too. I find really inspired a lot of my filmmaking sensibilities. I say that like I make films, which I do not. But I did go to school for it, and I did think that I was going to. So
and you may still.
Yeah, you never know. But it did the same thing that Evil Dead did, or Clerks did, where it was it really picks at these serious feelings, but in a goofy, cartoony sort of way.
Yeah.
And I like that sort of thing. So.
Mm-hmm. And it's just beautiful. Again, it's hypercolor, super surreal sets and stuff. So it really helps. Yeah, it's a beautiful film.
It is. It really is. But I'm a cheerleader. So if you haven't watched it, check it out. It came out in 1999, and also fun tie-in. Dante Bosco's also in that. So Rufio. Circle back. Also,
Natasha Lyonne is a buttercup princess baby in that. Yeah.
Yes.
Moving on from the perfect goddess of Clea Duvall, I'm going to just go ahead and jump right into John Candy.
Love it.
I loved him as Buck Russell and Uncle Buck. So I was probably 7 to 10 I put as an age for this. And I don't know what it is about it's either moody, brooding, serious guys that are you can never crack this nut, or a guy that's just has the biggest heart and is so warm and jovial and precious.
It's extremes, the two extremes, yeah.
And that's kind of what you get from Uncle Buck. He's a rough guy at first, but you can tell he's so pure and sweet and just tries. I still remember the first time I saw when he's smoking a cigar and he's looking through the photo album and he sees his brother on the wedding day, and he takes a photo and it's folded so he's not visible. Uncle Buck is folded away. I was and he looks so sad. Oh my God. I love you. It's okay. I guess that's the character that made me fall in love with John Candy, but I've loved him in pretty much anything I've seen him in. And just in life in general, he's just a great guy. Was a great guy.
Time traveling closer to present day. This is me at age 13. Ryan Ballman, who's a bit more of an obscure one. He played Micah in Children of the Corn 2 in 1992, which is when I fell in love with him. And he also played Dog in The Neverending Story 3 in 1996, part of the gang The Nasties, that also featured Jack Black.
I can't recognize him from anything that you just said. Oh, okay. I do not recognize him at all.
He is one that no one ever knows who I'm talking about. So I loved him. So I was a fan of horror at a young age, as you already know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was obsessed with Children of the Corn. So Ryan Ballman was playing Micah, who's the evil leader in Children of the Corn 2. Dark, brooding type of dude.
I can tell by his black mushroom cut.
Yes. Google Dog Neverending Story 3.
So he looks like Nancy from The Craft.
Oh, he kind of does.
He has the hair back and everything.
This was one of the instances that I thought was interesting because he now has so much online engagement. He has fan pages that during research for this, I subscribed to all of his Facebook fan pages and his YouTube.
Atta girl.
Yeah. And he engages with people and stuff like that.
Okay, so just to keep it real with you guys, my next one is Richard Dreyfuss, specifically from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So it was 11 or 12.
I love that you love Richard Dreyfuss. Can I just tell you, I sometimes think about how you love Richard Dreyfuss and think about how cute it is when I'm walking down the street.
I don't think anyone one cares about him at all in the world. I think people would just like throw him in the trash, but I love him so much. He's been in so many things I love, you know, the narrator in Stand By Me, and like it's like, and then I was older when I watched Jaws. I was probably like 14 when I watched Jaws for the first time. Super huge crush on him in that as well. Because I was like, oh, you just like so cool, you know, about sharks. And like, he alludes to the fact that he's just like super rich because he has that crazy boat that he funded himself. I love everything about him in Jaws. I did seriously fall in love with him in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He's just, I don't know, he's got a soft face. And he's all messed up because the aliens got in his noodle.
Yes.
You know? Feel bad for him. His wife leaving after he's like grabbing shrubs and putting them in the house and making giant mountains, and she just like runs away with the kids, and he's like, oh, it's so weird, you don't even have jackets on, you're acting crazy. And she like laughs in his face like, I'm acting crazy. And I was like, oh, I feel you though, Richard. I got you, Roy. I'll help you make a giant mountain in your house.
That's so cute. I love that one.
Oh, my love for Richard Dreyfuss.
It knows no bounds.
It's true. I'm 35 and I still love him.
Speaking of still loving people, Ginger Fitzgerald, Ginger Snaps, 2000. I was 15, played by Catherine Isabelle.
Oh, she's just stupidly perfect too.
100%. And if you listen to our Halloween episode, we talk about Ginger Snaps and like how fundamental that movie was for us. I still adore her. She's the perfect character in that. She's like a werewolf again. You have a type. It's werewolves. It's fine. I have a type, and it's like old men apparently. So, you know. And the cool thing, again, circling back to people who like have social media and kind of are more accessible now, she's like a Twitch streamer. So you can go on and watch her play video games. Yeah, she talks about her career and stuff, and yeah, it's really cool.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like you're having a date with her, but not.
It's exactly like that, but not. Yeah.
No pressure, which is the best. Another one, and it will lead into my next pick because they're from the same movie, is Lauren Ambrose, who plays Denise in Can't Hardly Wait.
Yes, Lauren Ambrose. Yeah.
She is so beautiful and so precious, especially in that movie. I loved her so much. Also on my list was Ethan Embry playing Preston in Can't Hardly Wait. He's just, it was like his eyebrows or something, I think. Both of them actually from that movie. So I really appreciated that in the movie, that like they had such a connection and stuff, but they never were romantic.
Yes.
Like that made me feel really good. And that was a big thing about the movie that I liked.
When that come out, like 1998 or something, I think.
98, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good year.
Which is bonkers. Doing the math, I'm like, oh, I was 13 or 14. Because I was like, oh, I was probably so old. And I was like, oh, no. That was super intense crush age, I feel like, 12 and 13. I still remember the outfit that he wears, you know? Like, I, like, loved him that much.
I should have had Ethan Embry on my list. Talk about regrets. Yeah. I forgot about him. And you know what sucks is I shouldn't have forgot about him, because I was going to text you. I've been watching Freaky Links on YouTube. Do you remember that show?
No.
It's like,
I'm going to add it to the list.
It's Ethan Embry, and it's like his show, and it's like from the 90s or early 2000s or something. There's another beautiful woman in it that I love too, and I'd put her on the list if I had have known about Freaky Links when it came out, but it's like, hang on, I gotta look it up. Let me just, Freaky Links, here we go. So it was on from 2000 to 2001, starring Ethan Embry, who should have been on my list. He played Adam Barnes, and then Lan Williams is the girl, and that was a role played by Lizette Carrion, who I don't think she's acting really anymore, but she's so gorgeous in this, and she has like those great 90s fashions and stuff. Like it's perfect. It's hard to watch because I can only find it on YouTube, and so it's like really poor quality, but check it out for real. Like it's this is Ethan Embry gold.
Okay, I'm into it. So one for sure was Ernest P. Worrell. Really loved Ernest.
Is that his whole name?
Ernest P. Worrell, yeah.
I did not know that was his whole name. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I really thought he was so handsome. And he was so funny. I was just like, oh, swoon. Even though he plays like an absolute idiot, I'm just like, I was always just like, oh, Ernest. He just had like a beautiful face, and he would do the most ridiculous things. I still like love the scene in Ernest Goes to Jail where he's like in the jury and his pen leaks and then he's trying to like clean it up with the paper and then he eats the paper and then there's ink everywhere. The scene makes no sense at all, but it just is so funny and great, and it just makes me be like, oh, Ernest, you're the best.
My second to last one is Marty from Cabin in the Woods 2012, and I was 27, played by Fran Kranz.
And that fits the type.
Yes.
It's like Randy 2.0.
It's like Randy. I'm always drawn to that character. Going back to like when we used to traditionally go to the corn maze haunted house, it's like we'd always go as a character, and we'd always go as the same character. You would go as like the cool guy, and I would go as like the weird, funny nerd who might have made it to the sequel, might not have. Named Kyle.
No, you totally did. I don't think I did. I was Brandon, and I don't think I made it.
Oh, Brandon. That's what it was. Yeah. Brandon. Yeah.
Because I think I was more preoccupied with, like, ladies.
So I'm always attracted to that archetype in horror.
Mm-hmm.
But they literally refer to him in Cabin in the Woods as the Fool. So I've always kind of liked that. And Randy was that as well, going back to Scream. He's a babe also, like Marty's a babe.
Total babe. And I love when I was like doing research on it, I found out like he was like the swimming scene. They had him like not go swimming when everyone else was swimming in the lake because he was like more jacked than Thor. Like they were like, it will not compute to people if like the nerd that's smoking pot is like a Adonis.
Yeah.
Like we can't. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
and he is.
So they just put like 4 shirts on him.
They're just like, no, this makes you look more in character. Yeah, and we meet him like and that's the thing. I love these really going back, these intensive moments that are just like pull at your heart and just give you like power ballads, like when I was 5 or 6 and the Rufio when he swings into the scene and he's just like epic. And so we meet him and he's got like the bong thermos and the music's playing.
Yes. Oh my god, I forgot about the bong thermos. And they're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, and he's like, and he turns it back into a thermos.
Folds up so quick and clean.
It's so good. And then later when REO Speedwagon's playing and then they find out somebody's still alive and they're like, who is it? And it cuts to him saving Dana with the thermos. Mm-hmm. It's just...
I know.
It's power. I love it.
What a guy.
What a guy.
Good choice.
Thank you.
Good choice. I have 2 left and then you have 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to...
So
Yeah.
I'll do my 2.
Yeah, sure. However you want to do it is good.
So this one, as much as I was like, oh, it's not true, it was true. I loved Paul Rudd in Clueless, who played Josh, like, a lot.
I should have known somebody from Clueless would come up just because of your love for Clueless.
Yeah, I definitely love Josh. And because it's Paul Rudd.
He's a babe, and he's hilarious.
Yeah, an adorable, precious, hilarious, just, like, tender boy. So that was a hard one for me, though, because I was like, oh, people will think I'm a poser. And it's like, no. I've watched Clueless, like, my whole life, and I've loved Paul Rudd my whole life, and that's fair.
You loved him before it was cool to love him.
For sure. And then my last love, my true love, that I would use a potion to get to be mine is Tom Hanks.
Fair enough.
Tom Hanks. And the first time that I really like fell in love with him was in You've Got Mail from 1998.
That's so sweet.
He is like the most precious ever in that movie. Like he's just so effortlessly charming and lovely and hilarious. Yeah, he's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
The end.
That's so cute.
Tom Hanks. The end.
I love it. I'm sorry, it's just I know you're going to make fun of me because I have to do this every episode. My last one is Eddie Kaspbrak from It Chapter 2, 2019, at age 35.
I was straight up expecting Stephen King to be on the list, though. That's why I was like, yeah, Argo. I was like, the King, closing out the list. But okay, yeah, all right.
Played by James Ronson. So, I love Stephen King. I should have put him on this list. Yes, Eddie Kaspbrak, played by James Ransone, It Chapter 2.
Oh my god. Wait, just keep talking. I need to do a little digging. Keep talking.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So I was really impressed with the remake of It Chapter 1 when it came out. I really loved it. But I was really late to the game with getting to It Chapter 2, and I only ended up watching it pretty recently. Have you seen It Chapter 2?
Yeah.
Right. So don't say it like that. That's offensive to me.
Sorry, I did watch it.
I love it. The tale is old as time. It comes back, and Mike Hanlon has to call his friends and be like, hey guys, hey Losers Club, it's back. Come back. You know, Mike is making all the calls, and we're catching up with all the adult versions of the Losers Club. And we see Eddie, who is, like, at this point, a stressed out risk assessment officer who's talking on the phone to his wife, played by Molly Atkinson, who also plays... Molly Atkinson also plays the role of his mother, which I thought was just such a nice touch.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Because in the book, that's, like, pages of, like, exposition just of them, like, explaining, like, that psychoanalysis of him.
Well, yeah, they do enough. They do, like, because I didn't notice that. They do enough where it's like he's on the phone with her.
Yeah.
And she's like really stressing out, and she's like, you didn't say you love me or whatever. And he's like, love you, Mom. And she's like, what?
Yes.
And there's a lot of, like, back and forth with the other losers being like, you married someone that weighed the same as your mom and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
exactly. So we catch up with him in that moment. And I was just like, minding my own business, watching the movie. And then he came on the screen, and I was just like, I'm sorry, who is this beautiful angel? What?
Yes.
And the answer was James Ransom.
That's true. He has such a beautiful face.
He is so attractive.
That's it. Okay, because I was like, for a second, I was like, I know this guy. I thought it was gonna be another contender for my list, which was Doogie Howser's bad influence friend, you know, from Doogie Howser MD. And I thought James Ransom played him, but he doesn't. He plays Ziggy in The Wire. That's how I recognize him.
He plays Ziggy in The Wire, which I did watch but forgot about. So I was just like totally smitten. And then like he goes on in the movie to like be like, in my opinion, aside from Mike Hanlon, the most heroic one in the whole friggin' movie.
Fair. Yeah.
I literally wrote my notes. This is so pathetic. But it's so true. That scene with him and Bill Hader, just all the feels. I was living more in that moment watching that scene than I am usually present for in my own life.
That's true, though. That was, like, so good.
Yes. It was so sad, too. So sad.
I know, I cried.
Oh, me too. Me too. But also, when I was doing research for this episode, I got into a rabbit hole with this. And I noticed that there's a lot of pictures of James with dogs. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And so I dug a little further and realized that other people also noticed that. And there's actually a thread on Twitter that you can find called James Ransom Posing with Pets, which I will also link in our show notes. But it's also probably the best thing I've seen in 2021 so far. So without digging too deep into what that means about me, I will just leave that for you guys to all look at in the show notes.
Wow. Okay. I don't feel as bad as I thought I would.
Any closing thoughts on any of the things we talked about?
Probably. I'm still actually just trying to like scrub my brain to see if there's any other human that I forgot, or non-human, apparently.
I'll get a text from you and be like, oh, this person.
Oh, for sure. I'm going to just send you random pictures. No explanation, just a screenshot of some goblin. I'll be like, I liked his hair. I really like lists too. They actually like make me do things with my brain that I don't usually do.
I know, same.
So
it's good.
It's fun.
So that's it for episode 8 of the Coven Slumber Party. Thank you so much for your ears and support. We are available on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube, where you can find our show notes in the video description. We are bringing you a slumber party each month, except for last month, sorry. And we hope you will come back to the Coven often to throw around a little magic and get those good old video store vibes. If you have any requests for movies, questions, comments, or anything else, or if you just want to email us your crushes,
please,
you can email us at thecovenslumberparty@gmail.com. We'll see you at the next slumber party. Oh, happy Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah, happy heart chocolate day.
Happy Valentine's, you guys.
I will play Luigi over Mario any day. Like, he's so good at jumping.